Hello and welcome to the Firm Optimist conversation. I'm Micheline Kaur and I truly never imagined that I would be talking to two of Ireland's top executive chefs from my kitchen table. I'm so delighted to be joined by Philippe Farniot and from Ashford Castle Direct and from Ed Cooney from the Merrion. And we are going to talk about hotels, food and creating high-end experiences from the post-COVID kitchen. First of all, hello, Philippe. I'm very well, thank you. I'm really enjoying your tweets. You seem to be out foraging quite a lot. And your smoothie recipe has been keeping me well stocked in vitamins. What have you been doing? Yes. How have you been spending your time in lockdown? How are you?
It's been I've been very lucky to be in Kong, in a sense, as you say, I can go foraging and we have a lot of forest around. So I'm being blessed, on that part. So it's as you say, we do lots of tweeting on Instagram on what we can find at the moment on foraging. I'm going to do one today about the elderflower that's coming now around all the estate, which is beautiful. And we can make cordial and stuff like that. So we speak about it and do a little herbalism on it. I just got my herbalist master online, so I've been also busy with that.
Brilliant. And Ed, because the Scottish Premier League isn't finishing this year, does that count as a break in Celtic's running win as champions?
I wasn't expecting that, I have to tell you. Yeah, it's only a temporary interruption to continued domination of the mighty Glasgow Celtic, Michelin.
You're joining us from home today, Ed, and are you still keeping up the marathon running?
Actually, I'm back running. Actually, I'm very lucky because I actually don't know what I would have done without it in this time. I've had a year of kind of injury interruptions, but it looks like I'm back on track, if you'll pardon the pun. So thankfully, over the 3 or 4 months, I'm able to get out. And we live here adjacent to the Phoenix Park, so I've been blessed with the weather and the park, just a half a kilometre away. So I've been able to go for jogs in there. So yeah, that's been a blessing in what's been tough times for everybody.
Absolutely. At this moment, there's no guarantee that there will ever be a vaccine for COVID-19. So what if there isn't one? We're looking to reopen our hotels and we have to learn to live with this virus somehow. Ed, how do you imagine the Merrion reopening in these circumstances, and do you have a time frame in mind?
Yeah, we do have a time frame. Our time frame is the government's time frame, and so at the moment we're looking at reopening the hotel on the 20th of July, as per the programme issued by the government, and we're looking at opening the Garden Room restaurant on the 29th of June. Now, given that, there are still a lot of blanks that we have to fill in with regards to protocols and so on, but we've done enormous work in filling in the gaps with regards to how we will operate when we reopen. The government's protocols, which were issued over the weekend, are a great help. But truthfully, we were working on pretty much everything that was in there anyway. It's just given us a framework now. And the underlying motivation for us is to make the return to work for our teams as safe and as comfortable as we possibly can. And obviously, ultimately, for our guests, we want to make sure that our guests feel comfortable and looked after. And we'll be doing everything we possibly can to create that environment.
Philippe, I read recently that when you go to work and see the castle, it's still a big moment for you. How are you coping with seeing the castle closed? And do you have similar reopening dates in mind as Ed was proposing there? And I suppose another question there, will the restaurants open before the hotel?
Listen, it's going to be, we are going to be on 2 stages here because we have a restaurant which is on an estate called the Cottage. And we have also a retail shop on the estate. So these 2 outlets will be reopened on the 29th of June. And the hotel himself with a fine dining restaurant will be reopened on the 20th of July. So we go on 2 stages, which is also very good to open the restaurant first, because we have, like Ed, we have a lot of new protocols coming up in the kitchen. The chefs are going to wear the PPE. We have the social distancing between the service. How the runner are going to take the plate. Are we going to run all this service? So it will be a great also to be able to manage one restaurant well, understand it well. Then we can apply to the hotel even better. So yes, all the staff is looking. Listen, we are all looking to come back as soon as possible and looking at this beautiful hotel on Castle. You know, we've been blessed and lucky to have that. But it's behind the scene, we have a lot of like Ed in Marion, we are working very hard with the suppliers, with the staff, with all management to organize a safe protocol for our guests and our staff.
Yes, and we're going to dig into that a little bit later on. Both of your hotels are brands, very strong Irish brands, international brands, and they're also leading hotels of the world. Ed, do you think this helps to build customer confidence, especially when we get back to receiving our international visitors? What's your view?
Yes, the short answer to your question is yes. But I think it's imperative upon us to create an environment as soon as we open the doors that reflects the brand, reflects the luxury, but also reflects the new world, the new realities that everybody is going to have to contend with and to adapt to. I don't think, what you say about leading hotels of the world, it's great. And truthfully, when we reopen, we'll be relying on our domestic market exclusively for the first while. The international market will take longer to come back. But the motivations don't change. It's the same, and you cannot be complacent in any way. We've created a brand that's strong and hopefully creates trust, but that's not a reason to rest on our laurels. This is a whole new world that everybody is entering into, and like everything else that we try and do, we'll try and be at the cutting edge, and we'll try and lead the way as best we possibly can.
I'm talking to many leaders in our industry at the moment, and so many are humbled by this scenario and literally unknowing. Ed, you said previously that the global crisis of 2008 was a very difficult challenge. How does it compare to this situation?
It doesn't really. I can hold my hand up and say I've been completely wrong about this pandemic in every single call along the way. And that maybe reflects the fact that we've never, or our generation has never had to deal with a pandemic. But where we're at, I think I was listening to Richard, what you did with Richard, and Richard is very honest. And I think, if we all look into our hearts, I think what Richard was saying, we all went through those emotions because a lot of us were looking at, almost a life's work going poof up in the air. And we all have friends and we all have family in the hospitality business who have restaurants and so on. And it was very hard to process. I think now that we've got a little bit of, dates and so on that we can work towards, I think our natural instincts are beginning to kick back in. And it's like, okay, right, this is what we got now. What have we got to do? What have we got to get going? But we're starting from zero. I wouldn't underestimate the challenge ahead at all. I mean, we're not going to have tourists in Ireland until 2021, is it? And so we're going to have to fight for our little part of the domestic market, which is not a huge pie. And getting business and business models tuned into what the reality is going to be the challenge, because none of us know the levels of business that we're going to be able to generate. And that is the big unknown for us at the moment. The health aspect of things, we have a little bit more clarity. from the government now as to what's expected of us, and that's great. But the real unknown is how much business can we generate, and how can we build confidence.
Philippe, in the last number of weeks, how's it been for you to communicate and support your very large team of chefs?
Listen, exactly as we do now, it's a lot of a Zoom meeting, which is great. At least you can see people face to face. It's fantastic. We can discuss of a new menu, and we're going to run the new menu on the new. It's like said, it's a new opening. It's like reopening a new hotel. It's the same feeling. Our fridge are empty. We need to contact all the suppliers, make sure they have their own protocol ready also. We send a letter to every supplier on the month to make sure their ASIP program is being updated with the COVID-19. Themselves, they are managing their delivery. So we're on that at the moment. Then after we are doing a new zoning for our own delivery. So it's like reopening a new hotel totally. The delivery system will be different. The way we're going to get the food from the yard to the kitchen. The chefs, their duty is going to change. The way they work is going to change with the PPE. People going in the fridge will be only one chef at a time going in the fridge, for example. So a lot of things are changing, and there's a lot of training to be done, and a lot of a new training sheet to be organized. So yes, it's like Ed, we never go through this kind of thing. 2008 was very different. We are still working, maybe at a low level of staff, but not like we are now. If no staff in the kitchen, it's nothing. It's like reopening 4 new kitchen for us, So it's a lot of meeting. I am very lucky. I have a strong team with me, and everybody has his own duty, which is very, very important. And every week we meet, we have a deadline. They know exactly what they need to achieve each week until we set the 15th of June. Then after me, we'll be back in the kitchen probably on the 17th of June, reorganize the ordering and all the zoning.
You've both mentioned to me that it's like doing an opening, a reopening. What kind of training plans do you have, Ed?
We're currently putting the finishing touches to a reopening induction program. So this will be for every member of the team, not just the kitchen staff. So there'll be a whole new protocols for coming to work, arriving at work, how you present yourself at work, etc., etc., which is required by the government protocols as well. And the extension of that then will be obviously in the kitchen. We will have, departmental specific requirements and training. Representing respecting social distancing, etc., etc. We've written new menus. We've written menus. We've written our Christmas menus. We've done pretty much everything we can from that perspective, and we will open the garden room, and essentially in the Merrion we'll be opening the ground floor, the drawing rooms, the garden room restaurant. Room service will be available, and then we will take it from there as the phased reopening of the business world continues. Functions, the bar, and so on. They'll come further down the track, but we'll have protocols for all of those initiatives, and what will be wonderful for us as chefs is to get back cooking. Quite frankly, we miss it. We miss the buzz, we miss service, we miss what we do. I need to apologize for that.
That's okay.
That's Wednesday. I completely forgot.
It's okay. It's not the kitchen. It's not coming from the kitchen, Ed, is it?
No, I apologize. It's the apartment block. I completely forgot.
Well, you're nice and safe. That's good. That's good.
He does a fire alarm test every Wednesday. Apologies, everybody.
That's okay.
It would be lucky to be in a hotel, Ed, the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Tuesday, 12 o'clock.
Exactly. Yeah. But look, as chefs, all we want to do is get back cooking. And once we can get back cooking, it means we're open again. It means we're serving food, and everything we do will be set up to try and get as busy as we can, as quickly as we can, so that we can get as many of our team members back. And that's the goal. And that's everybody's goal. I think once we can get back doing what we're doing, looking after people, and hopefully just creating that wonderful environments that we've created in Marion and Nashville and all of these wonderful restaurants. The amazing hospitality business that we have in Ireland is all we ask. Just give us a chance.
I'm glad to hear you're working on new menus there. And I have a question from my own business partner, Kieran Moore. With the fall off in traditional tourists, especially our North American customers, are you going to be changing some of the popular dishes to suit the staycation audience? And he's also added in here, has COVID pushed calorie counting off the menu? Would you like to take that, Philippe?
The calorie counting, oh my God. If it's off the menu, I'm delighted. First of all, it's at the moment, I don't think we are the calorie counting is definitely not on the table for now. I think the thing is to make sure that our guests are they're going to 2 months of lockdown. When they come back to eat, I'm sure they want to eat well. They want to eat something they didn't cook at home, something new. They want a new flavors, and they want to enjoy their dinner. I don't think people want to look at how much calorie I'm going to eat today after 2 months of lockdown. So yes, the menu will have to reflect. All the season. We are big now, May, June. When we open, it'll be June. It'll be the month of the fabacea, all the peas, the beans, the brown beans, all that coming on the market will be beautiful. We got the fresh Irish strawberry. So all that, the menu going to reflect the season. And that is probably the same now in many of the restaurants. That is the main thing.
Ross Lewis from Chapter 1 commented this week that he'll have 2 menu options with less courses to reduce down the level of contact with customers. I mean, if restaurants are confined to fewer diners, do you think dishes will become more simplified as a means of reducing costs?
The dishes we have, it's funny, we're speaking a lot at the moment with the sous chef and the head chef in Ashford. We have to reduce a little bit of the dishes. The flavor is the main thing. Okay, what the guests want is to have a dish with flavorsome, with awesome to look at, and they can enjoy. Yes, we need to reduce the mise en place. We also need to reduce the number of deliveries. So by reducing the menu, we have less deliveries, so with less cross-contamination, which should be very important for COVID-19. So all that need to be looked at. It's not only the menu is from the delivery time to the preparation, to the setup, to the service for the service staff to take the plate, to go away, to explain to the guests. It's a lot of it's a journey to look at. It's a full journey. But definitely, as I say, Ross, and I'm sure Ed is doing the same. We are reducing the menu, make sure we are putting dish and the guest knows and love, and putting our own flavor on it, and our own style, and keeping very local and seasonal, definitely.
And talking about those local suppliers, you're both very committed Your Talk members and dedicated to using local Irish produce and buying from the fish smokers, the black pudding makers, the fruit farmers and cheese makers in our great country. Philippe, will there be any changes in how you will work with these small artisan producers, and what will you need them to do differently?
The first thing the letter we send to every supplier is to send us their own protocol now of how they are working under the COVID-19. Unfortunately, as you may saw last week, it was a big meat factory who got some COVID-19. So it's still a business, I would say, who are not coping very well with what's happening. And that is very important for us to make sure that every artisan, big or small, doesn't matter the size, have a new protocol, understanding what's happening on the COVID-19. It's fine for us when the delivery arrives, we're going to decant everything from the supplier, we're going to sanitize everything before it comes to the kitchen. But they also need to do their own part, is what I need to understand from them. So, it's for some people how they sanitize, they wear masks, Do they understand where the products coming from also to make their own product? All that we need to get together. We are calling supplier one by one. We're speaking to them, make sure they are okay also. Some supplier, like I was speaking to John from Duncastle, his oysters are bigger than the one normally I order. But I said, don't worry, John, we will use what you have. Some suppliers have a lot of product to be used, and it's very important for us now to support them as well.
Yes, many of them are small businesses. How are they feeling about the future? Ed, have you been in communication with some of your suppliers? Yes, Aidan McGrath from the Wild Honey Inn has been in touch with us, and he's not open at the moment, looking for the right moment. But he brings up a very interesting point about customer behaviour, which he thinks is going to be difficult to predict. But safety is hugely important to our guests, of course. But his fear is whether guests are going to be as diligent as hoteliers are striving to be. And he feels that temperature testing is going to be a must for a small business like his. Do you see guest temperature checking as something you'll be doing in your hotels?
This is something we've been discussing just over the last few days. We will be temperature checking every member of the staff that arrive to work. At the moment, unless we are instructed otherwise, we would be reluctant to temperature check our guests. Now, that's based on the protocols that the government has given us at the moment. It's also based on, we're a hotel and people are in and out all of the time, and guests could, for instance, be in and out of the hotel 3, 4, 5 times a day. Are you going to temperature check them every time they present themselves at the door? And that's not a categoric, like, no, we're not going to do it, because like everything else at the moment, it's a bit of a movable feast. But we would be reluctant to do so at the moment. And also, you're going to have to ask some member of our team to do the temperature checking. And we're not necessarily qualified for that. We're quite prepared to do it for our own members of staff and take the guidelines and record and so on and so forth. But at the moment, no, we would be slightly reluctant. And I get Aidan's point. But this goes back to everybody is in this, it's not just about us, it's about our guests, it's about respect. I would expect our guests to respect our team members and take some, cognizance of their safety. Like we will be doing everything for our guests. So it is a fair point, but there also is going to be an element of suck it and see as we move into this reopening phase.
Yes. As we keep talking about the unknowns, I suppose, we've also talked a lot about creating customer confidence and the measures that we're taking so that everybody's safe in our hotels. Greg Manahan from D4 Hotels, who does a lot of those hospitality videos across our industries, well known to many of us, he suggested using video to show the food preparation area, especially if your kitchen isn't visible. And he assures me it's an easy process. kind of linking good quality, low cost camera from any electrical retailer, and then putting some TV screens quite discreetly around your dining room. It sounds like a simple way to reassure guests. And then thinking aloud, I was kind of thinking myself, well, maybe you could put the menu up there as well and reduce, again, the table furniture one more step and take away that issue of handing out menus. Could either of you see yourselves doing that?
No.
Philippe, can we expect to see the Ashford kitchen while we're dining?
No, the customer behavior and it will come back also to us and our self-confidence to show to the guests then we are prepared for what's happening now, and we are well organized. Like Ed, we're going to have a temperature check of the staff. We're going to, all that will be organized. And I think if the guest knows what we are doing on our part already, they will be confident to come. It's also on the guest behavior. All the guests want to come at 8 o'clock. That is not going to happen anymore. We have, it's going to be probably a new way not a new way, but it's something we are all fighting for a long time. But make sure we have the guests at 6 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, a better kind of a structure, and hopefully the guests this time we follow up. Some people book at 7, but still come at 8. We can't have that anymore. Not with the self-distancing. So it's going to be, that is where the guest behavior is going to be extremely important for us. For a small restaurant or a big restaurant, is everybody come on the time they booked, and they follow that. If people decide to come all late, we won't have the table. We won't have. That will be a very big challenge, because what we do with the guests waiting at the door, no table, social distancing, and the service. A waiter, we have his own table. It won't be like 3 or 4 waiters at the table anymore. It's going to be, a little more followed by one service staff member. So that will be the challenge. Having camera in the kitchen, maybe, I don't know, I never thought about it, honestly. When you eat with your partner, as a couple, you want to see the chef cooking on the side? No, normally you are with your partner eating. So I suppose you are, eye to eyes, enjoying the moment.
So social distance parting, of course.
Philippe's points are very valid, and actually the meal time, and for hotels this is relevant, very relevant. The meal time that will be impacted the most is breakfast. For instance, we will not have a breakfast buffet anymore in the room, and not for the foreseeable future until things rectify. You will make a reservation for breakfast. Now, I have been cooking breakfast for decades, and breakfast, and Philippe will I'm sure back me up on this one, is very challenging logistically for any kitchen, because everybody wants to come down at 9 o'clock or 9:30, especially the weekends, and as we all know, there's only so many seats in a restaurant. So this is going to be one of the great adjustments that our guests are going to have to make. So when we take a reservation, we're going to be offering them times for breakfast, and the days of just falling out of bed, coming downstairs and queuing up at the restaurant at 9:30 along with everybody else, I'm afraid they're gone. The breakfast buffet is gone for the foreseeable future, and so going back to Aidan's point about guest behavior, our guests are going to have to adapt to this new reality, because our restaurant will be running on probably 50% capacity. We can only do X amount of covers, and we'll have to stagger it over hours depending on how many people we've got in the hotel. And all of those areas are it's going to have to become a little bit more structured than maybe what we are used to. And Irish people, when it comes to breakfast, we ain't great, because we all love to have breakfast at 9:30 on a Sunday morning. And but hey, we will adjust.
It's not the only sorry, Philippe, you want to talk about breakfast there as well, do you?
Yeah. No, it's like Ed. We spoke about the last couple of weeks also to take the booking for the breakfast, because we do believe the lunch service and dinner service will go smoothly, but
Yes.
we know the breakfast are going to be our challenge. Room service, are we going to have more room service? Maybe, because people will be more comfortable in their bedroom. I wish people are very well known to come at lastminute.com for the breakfast. And that is our challenge. And definitely, I think the booking for breakfast is the way to go. Definitely.
Both of your hotels are renowned for your afternoon tea services. What are the new restrictions going to mean and how that is served? Will there be afternoon tea?
Yes, I can tell you that we'll be doing afternoon tea from the day we open. Actually, afternoon tea is probably a mealtime that's relatively straightforward when it comes to service, because it's okay. Well, certainly from the food perspective, the interactions between the floor staff and the guests are few, insofar as it's a stand, you put it down, and in our case, it's a 2-course. The topping up of the tea and so on is a little bit more, regular, shall we say, more often, but that can be done adjacent to the table. So again, observing all of the protocols, I don't see a big issue with afternoon tea. In fact, I think afternoon tea will be one of the areas where people will be very happy to go and give themselves a little bit of spoiling and pampering and, get out of the house and have a glass of champagne. I actually think people will be very comfortable with it.
And funny enough, the afternoon tea is probably the only dinner, probably the outlet where the guests come on time. I don't know about you, but I always felt it's on time for this one.
Yeah. It's very true.
I've got a lovely contribution in here from Carlo Boersma, the Director of Sales and Events at Carton House. Thanks for tuning in, Carlo. Great to hear from you. Here at Carton, we're making changes to how we manage and book meetings. Our day delegate package will be adapted, and it's likely that our meeting rooms will now be classroom style to keep attendees apart. And they're looking into how they cater for meetings without using buffets. And with staff operating the tea and coffee stations. They're also reviewing the in and out flow. Breakout rooms may not be a possibility. And in terms of reducing touch points, taking away pens, paper pads, that type of thing. He also raised an interesting thought around parking, and I guess there's a lot of space out in Carton, but are we looking at car parks that have social distancing for our delegates? I suppose my question to both of you is, what is the future food service that you envisage for our meeting business? Any thoughts on that?
Well done to Carton there. I would say that they're probably slightly ahead of us when it comes to protocols for meetings and so on. It is going to be one of the great challenges, and for all of us, it's a great revenue generator. So we need to come up with the answers. We still have a lot of business on our books for later on in the year, August and September and October. But what we don't have is the definitive protocols around how can we do a meeting for 10 people. The actual physical layouts and so on and so forth, and can we do it, and when can we start doing it? So I commend Carton. They're obviously well ahead. I can honestly say we haven't gotten quite that far yet. We're talking about it because it is further down the track when it comes to the phased reopening.
Yes, but your numbers are smaller, I suppose, as well. Your capacity would fit the 40s or so. Okay. We're thinking about so. 2 questions have come in a very similar vein, I suppose. Tom Isherwood. Hi, Tom, General Manager of the Schoolhouse Hotel and an ex-colleague of yours, Ed, at the Merrion. And also, hi, Mary Hall from Hallmark Training. Great to hear from you, Mary. Both are looking at top tips that you would have, like what's top of your mind to reassure the public that it's safe to dine out again. And Tom's asking about how the atmosphere of the restaurant will change as we implement social distancing. Philippe, what are your thoughts on how our restaurants will look and feel?
Listen, that is, I suppose, for every single chef and restaurant manager is a big question, because to have a buzzing restaurant of 40 cover is going to be only 20. Atmosphere is going to be different. It won't be a big large table anymore. It's going to be a table of 4, more than likely. So the table of 8 is going to be 2 tables of 4. The friends and families. So that is going to be very, very different. I don't think any of us understand yet what will be as the opening. It's typically not an easy one. But to get back the customer confidence, I do believe if the guest sees a chef wearing his food PPE, if they understand from the restaurant managers and table has been well spaced, we are following the protocol recommended by the HSC and the government, I think people will trust us. It's a matter of we're going to have a menu which will be disposed after they use it. It's going to be very basic table setting. What we don't need is going to be here. So at least it will be less handle on the plate, on the flowers, on stuff like that. So that we have to reduce the amount of touching the restaurant as such, But to come back to atmosphere, listen, that is for a long time, it's going to be very different.
Very different. And I suppose I was thinking that we've had a lot of discussion about front of house operations, but really at the back of house, our stewarding teams, your stewarding teams, will now be like frontline workers. We're very reliant on them. And I guess, are we looking at increased payroll costs to have more stewarding, more cleaning going on as the restaurants are active?
Yeah, I think again, creativity, imagination. There are some companies out there who, for instance, you can get a spray. You can spray it on a hard surface. It makes that surface safe for a period of time from germs, I guess. We're looking at doing that in all of the back of house areas. But yeah, your point is very valid. It will require more diligence, and it will require more time, which is more people, more. Every surface is going to have to be cleaned regularly. There will be a time on that. Every door handle, every push plate, everything that is a surface that we touch is going to have to be cleaned at least every hour on the hour, and somebody's going to have to do that. But again, that's our new world, and we're going to have to adjust to that.
I can't let you away without. Sorry, Philippe, did you want to come in on that?
No, I said like Ed, it's a very, very similar for us as a ASIP program. It's going to be a kitchen porter or only on the sanitizer program around the hotel, and their duty will be only that. The handles, the flap of the doors, every little thing we don't realize all the time, and we are pushing, touching from the service point of view to the kitchen. So yes, it's a new adjustment. I said, Ed, it's a new adjustment. It's a new way of working.
I can't let you away without talking about how the industry has been experiencing a shortage of chefs for some time. Will this pandemic make the situation worse? Because as some overseas chefs may go home and immigration may be difficult for the foreseeable future. I guess I'm curious to know, do you see yourself adding to your teams? Do you see that there will be some recruitment needs towards perhaps the end of the year? What are your general thoughts?
I don't see recruitment, Michelin. You probably don't want me to hear, or you don't want to hear it.
I can take it. I can take it.
Recruitment be an issue for a while. No, I don't see it as being an issue. In the immediate future, I hope it becomes an issue very, very quickly for us, which means we're getting very busy and things are getting back to some semblance of normality. But I have to tell you, it's not high up on my list of priorities. I don't see it as a.
You're looking at bringing a team back.
You know, the shortage of chefs who was in 2019 won't happen in 2020, unfortunately for the business, you know. The restaurant, a lot of restaurants are going to have half of their capacity. That is, unfortunately, the reality of the new world. Even if some people are going back home, you know, some people probably feel safer in Ireland. I do believe the Irish government has dealt very well with the COVID-19 compared to other governments. And I do believe I'm working with a lot of French chefs, and they are very happy to stay in Cong anyway. That's for sure.
That's very good news that people are bedding down and see it as a safe country because of the way that we're handling the crisis. I can't wait for both of you to get back to your kitchens, by the way. And thank you so much for being my guests today. Thank you for sharing such great knowledge, really deep expertise, and for teasing out the unknowns, because they are certainly in our lives at the moment. And thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Michelle, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a very special viewer today. My fabulous dad, Frank Corr, is celebrating his 80th birthday this weekend. And while the party plans are on hold for now, I'd like to send him very happy birthday wishes from me and for the team at the firm. You're the best. Bye for now, guys.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Frank.
Joyeux anniversaire.